Thanks for having me here. It's indeed my pleasure to be a part of this wonderful, event. So, a short course on the most important aspect, cyber laws, artificial intelligence, which is an upcoming dimension of this technology. As I've been asked to talk about the basic issues, one is about technical aspect, cyberspace. The other is about the legal aspect, cyber laws. So I'll try to address it in the given time. So just give me a second, I'll share the slides. I hope the slides are visible and I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, so why the whole need of talking about this whole issue that is cyberspace, cyber law, as we all understand today, this is one space that we cannot avoid using. This is one technology that we become extremely dependent upon, that is cyber technology, computer technology, internet technology, whatever you call it as. So much inevitable that today's communication is almost happening through this platform or through this technology, including our academic activities like today's, as well as our official transactions or personal communication. So for almost every transaction or every kind of communication, we've been depending upon this technology. So the need of understanding the law which tries to regulate this technology's misuse and tries to promote the usage of this technology. So therefore, as I just mentioned, there are two important or core objectives that any cyber law should try to achieve. So one is that promote the usage of this technology, because this technology is so advantageous that you'll have to ensure that it is legally promoted, for which it has to be legally recognized. At the same time, also have a law through which you can regulate, prevent, curb the abuse, the possible abuse of this technology. Hence, there was a need felt to come up with a separate law, a separate branch of law through which these two objectives could be achieved. So therefore, today what we have is this branch of law called cyber law. However, academically there were debates on as to, do we need a separate branch of law to regulate cyberspace or promote the usage of cyberspace or cyber technology? Isn't the already existing law enough? We have so many laws: civil law, criminal law, consumer law, evidence law. So why this whole need of a new law? So one of the school of the thought, one of the school of law, they thought that there is no need of a separate law. The existing criminal law is enough. The existing civil law is enough. And their argument was that you can't keep making law for every changes that happens in the society. But there was another school of thought which felt that there was a need of having a new law, so that the new technology or the new forms of crime which emerge with this new technology had to be regulated through a new law. So this debate anyways kept continuing, but then despite all these debates, diverse views, a separate branch of law emerged, and that is a cyber law. However, I cannot say it's completely separate, because when you look at the cyber law all through this course, you will understand that cyber law is not just Information Technology Act, which I'll be talking about in a little while about which. So it's not just IT Act, but largely it is IT Act, that is Information Technology Act. But even beyond this, there are many other laws which also in a way tries to achieve this objective of facilitating usage of the technology or preventing misuse of this technology. So anyways, apart from all these ongoing, despite the ongoing debate, so the law emerged. Almost every country today has a separate law to deal with usage of IT technology and to prevent and regulate the cyber crimes. But then this is not new. So why this whole need of cyber law and all? It's not new that there was a change in the science and change in technology that you had to come with a new law. This has always happened in every society. So this happened even with regard to intellectual property. So as this was emerging as a new branch of property, new branch of law came, or environment science related aspects are taken care of by environmental law. So therefore, every time there's been a change in the technology, every time there's been a change because of this technology, a change in the society, a new law has emerged. So similar is also the case with cyber. Why the need of regulating this space or this technology if it's so advantageous? So, like how it's advantageous for us to communicate with each other, to transact in commercial transactions, official transactions, like how it has become an aid in the hands of people, for so many things that it facilitates to. Similarly, it has also become an aid in the hands of perpetrators of wrong. So, for people who commit fraud or other crimes, it's become a tool. So that's in fact the concern that the law should address, because this technology also gives chance for abuse of this technology. What we're seeing is increase in the number of crimes committed with the use of this technology, or you can refer to it as cybercrime, or there's also an increase in the number of conventional crimes where this technology as a tool has been used. So be it a cybercrime or a conventional crime, I understand a lot of people are not from law background, so I try to use basic, simple terms, not completely legal. So there are certain crimes which are not cyber completely, they're conventional, they were known to us even before this technology emerged, like murder, kidnapping. But today, this tool is used even to commit those offenses, or this tool becomes an evidence even in a case like that of murder or rape or kidnapping. How, for example, maybe it's a completely conventional crime. A has killed B, but the call data records might help the investigating officers or the courts in arriving at the truth. Or the tower data record, where that accused was at the time of commission of the offense. Was he, in the close vicinity of the victim? So you can today trace it by referring to the tower data record, the phone tower data record. So like this, whether it is a cybercrime matter or a conventional crime matter, digital technology has become a tool even in the hands of the investigating agency. At the same time, a tool in the hand of fraudsters. Hence, there is a concern that needs to be addressed through the law, and that law should be generally referred to as cyber law because it's dealing with cyber technology or digital technology. But there are certain concerns that law is trying to address. So one is, now, which space is that which needs to be regulated through this law? So it's supposed to be cyberspace. But can we see cyberspace? No. You can, of course, enjoy the benefits of cyber technology, cyberspace, but it's definitely not tangible in nature. But we know it exists. So that's the concern. The concern is not just because it's not visible, it's also because it raises many other legal questions, like jurisdiction. So suppose from A country is committing an offense against B in B country, but he is using a computer located in C country. So which country will handle this case? So these kind of complex questions are affecting the implementation of the law. I'll come to that aspect later. But the very definition of cyberspace is very, very difficult in the sense legally to determine what should be the space which needs to be governed by a country's cyber law is still a question. However, technically, if you see, the terms we've used in our law, like you will anyways discuss all these laws in the course of this particular short-term course. So the laws like Information Technology Act, or even in Indian Penal Code, or even Criminal Procedure Code. So they're all using words which are like computer, computer system, computer network, computer resource. So these are the words that are used in the law. In the sense, for example, you have laws which says whoever commits an offense using a computer. But the question is, what is computer? Now, for a layman, computer is like your laptop, desktop. But then no, for law, it's much a wide definition. I just read one definition so that you get what I am trying to convey. So, for example, Section 2 of the Information Technology Act. So, what is Information Technology Act? I'll come to that. Since we're looking into the concept of cyberspace, I'll just read one definition of the term given in the Information Technology Act. 2I, Section 2I of the Information Technology Act defines computer as, you can later read it, Google, or even if you just refer IT Act, you'll come across it. So it uses your people from technology background can more easily understand what this means. So according to law, computer means any electronic, any magnetic, any optical, or any high-speed data processing device. Imagine what those tools can be, which are high-speed data processing device. So it's not just laptop or computers or iPad or notepad. It's more than that, right? So any device, where there is speed data processing, associated with the device, or it's a system which performs logical, arithmetic, memory functions by manipulation of electric, magnetic, or optical impulses. And look at the definition. It's an inclusive definition. In law, we say that a term is inclusive, definition is inclusive if it uses the word includes. Now, this definition says computer is all this, whatever I just read, plus it also includes all input, output, processing, storage, computer software, and communication facilities. So storage, for example, hard disk in which you store your data or your file, or even processing devices, or even input and output devices, or communication facilities providing devices like mobile phone. So therefore, mobile phone is also a computer today. If it has these kind of functions that this section is referring to. And if these processing, storage, computer software, or communication facilities which are connected or related to a computer in a computer system or a computer network, it is referred as computer. So just an example of a definition which is so wide that it includes a lot of devices around us. So today, in fact, most of the houses are, automated houses, right? So you have washing machines that you can connect with Wi-Fi. You have, your ceiling fans or your electric bulbs which are connected to Alexa or other, artificial intelligence devices. So therefore, as per this definition, all of those are computers. Thus, for us, we should understand that for us, the computer is, all of these, your automated refrigerator, your digital watch, the pacemakers, etc. So these devices connected with internet technology, in simple terms, can be referred as cyberspace. Now think of laws which will apply on this cyberspace. So it can be a law through which you are regulating or you're promoting usage of artificial intelligence. As of now, there's no specific law which does this function, though we are planning to come up with laws specifically to take care of the concerns related to artificial intelligence. So in the meantime, it's again the Information Technology Act. So or on this space, data is also concerned, privacy is also concerned. So all of these are cyber laws because they are referring to issues related to cyberspace. I just read one definition as an example. So this way, if you look into other definitions under the IT Act, we do realize that a lot of terms are so widely defined that the whole scope of the act itself is very, very wide. Okay, so therefore, cyberspace for us is that huge dimension of space where cyber technology, internet technology, or its components, as I just read from the definition, components of these devices or technology, is all associated with internet, and connected with internet technology. So the very first concern that we have is that you can't limit this space, so therefore you can't limit the scope of this law also, and you can't even limit it to just by you can't even limit the regulatory mechanism by just applying IT law. So today we are talking about jurisdiction. We are also talking about multilateral agreements between countries or bilateral agreements between countries. So that means we are referring to international law. Today, if you're talking about some properties on cyberspace, for example, maybe I've written an article and published it on a website, but someone has replicated the same article on the website. So we're talking about intellectual property on cyberspace. So therefore, cyberspace related law also includes legal aspects related to IPR. So therefore, IPR's component is also part of cyber law. Or today, in most of the family courts, what we see is in a family dispute, the evidence provided is the chat history or some online records. So evidentiary issues are digital in nature. So that way, evidence law is also in a way related to cyberspace or cyber technology. Family law also to that extent. So that way, every law today has one or the other component related to digital technology, cyber technology, or cyberspace. So hence, it's very, very difficult to define what cyber law is. Though today's session will look more into Information Technology Act. Why so? I'll explain that later. So the first concern is that you can't define what cyber law is. You can't define what is the jurisdiction for the application of your law. It can overlap with another country's law. The second concern is about securing the space. As I just mentioned some time back, this technology is so advantageous that unfortunately it becomes a tool in the hands of the offenders. So security of cyberspace is a concern. Security of transactions on cyberspace is also a concern. So how am I sure that all my online banking transactions are secured? All my data on cyberspace is secured. So that's a question which we often get, right? So therefore, that's also an issue that the law should address, but unfortunately, we have limitations in the law. And the other concern is also about, jurisdiction. Again, I'll come to that later. So therefore, cyberspace and cyber technology, since are often affected with crimes, wrongs. So, when we talk about securing cyberspace, we are inevitably also talking about regulating cyber crimes. When it comes to cyber crimes or even wrongs, again, people who are not from law background. So we classify usually wrongs into two categories: civil wrongs, criminal wrongs. Criminal wrongs means they're more serious compared to civil wrongs. They're serious, plus they're usually considered as an offense against the state or the society. For example, murder is not just seen as an offense against that victim or the victim's family, it's also seen as an offense against the society. Right? So, like that, there are certain cyber wrongs, that is, wrongs committed by abusing this technology, which are treated as cyber crimes. There's some wrongs which are treated as civil wrongs. So, when we talk about the landscape of cyber law, we are referring to both the aspects: that law through which civil remedies made available, and that part of the law through which criminal remedies made available. Because remedies under both the laws are also different. For example, when I hack your computer and you file a case against me, if you want compensation for the loss you've suffered because of hacking, you'll file a civil case against me, because hacking is a civil wrong. However, hacking is also a criminal wrong. So therefore, if you want the offender to be imprisoned or fined, that criminal sanctions is something that you're looking for, so then you'll file a criminal complaint or an FIR. So therefore, when we talk about cyber wrongs, some of the wrongs are civil, some are criminal, some are both. And that's again something that you will have to focus, throughout this course to understand the landscape of the IT Act or the cyber law. And then the whole question is like, what are these crimes, which are considered as cyber crimes? No, the list of cyber crimes, it's inclusive again. It's not exhaustive. So there are new and new forms of cyber crimes that are, emerging on daily basis. With the new form of technology, new advent in this, science field, new forms of crimes are also coming up. Initially, it was just like, hacking, cracking, or virus attack. But then we started even hearing about ransomware attack. We also started hearing about other new forms of offenses like data diddling. Today, data theft is a concern. Privacy breach is a concern. Offenses related to, again, non-regulated, unregulated use of AI. AI, of course, is advantageous, but imagine a driverless car. If it's not properly regulated, monitored, and you can't assure security. What if it leads to accident, etc.? Who is liable? So these kind of new issues are coming up. So therefore, when it comes to cybercrime, again, we can't list which offenses are cybercrime. I mean, even if you can list, it can't be a complete list, because as the technology is changing, forms of cyber crimes are also changing. Plus, the number of offenses are also multiplying. So, when it comes to cybercrime, unlike all other conventional crime, cyber crimes are expanding very fastly, because it's not just multiplying in number, it's also multiplying in forms. The form of offense you had not heard, say, 2-3 years back, are the ones that we're hearing today. Maybe tomorrow there'll be more and more new forms of offenses. Example, the recent drone attack in Jammu, raised the concern about securing, ourselves from, abuse of drone technology. So like this. So the offense we're talking about is something that cannot be, brought down, with one definition given under the law. Since it's a very long session, if you have any questions in between, you can just put it in the chat box. I'll try to address that. Any questions up to here? Yeah, so let's continue if there are no questions.
Things are clear, madam.
No, ma'am, no.
Because Since a lot of them are not from law background, I'm just concerned if they're able to get it or is it too complicated. Okay, so we'll continue. Okay, fine. I don't think I can see the chat also. If there are any questions in between, if one of you can just interrupt and read out the question, is fine. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. So let's continue. So what cyber crimes are? As I said, it's hard to define, hard to list. Now the next challenging issue is on us. So I hope you can see the slide. I hope it's visible. Are the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Right. So yeah, see some of your questions, maybe we will address it in the course of the 2-hour talk today, as well as during your 10 days session. Anything about what I've already said, say for example, a term or a particular word I've used today, or I've referred to a particular provision today, which you couldn't understand. So those kind of questions you can put now. The rest you can ask later. Maybe the last half an hour we keep it for interaction. Yeah. Now the next issue
Sure,
is
sure, ma'am.
yeah.
Ma'am, one person has asked the question.
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, Ammu, how we can punish a person who is committed in the cyber crime in the cyber world in a physical world?
Right. Yeah, I'll come to that. As I said, this is something that you will anyways learn during the 10 days course. But before, anyways, I'll answer that at the last stage. So as I said, about terms I'm using, about issues I'm referring to now, if there are any questions, please keep, asking it in the chat.
Can we ask the questions
Question
after
I'll
the
answer
class or in between? During the class we can mute it. That is better, no?
Yeah. So that's what. So maybe it's better to just leave your questions in the chat box. So we'll take it later. Okay, let's continue then, so that otherwise we lose the track. So the next issue is who the offender is. Now, say if there are some organized crimes, there's certain habitual offenders, like people who have habit of committing the offense, or certain offenses, you can profile an offender. But when it comes to cyber crimes, there are attempts done to profile. Earlier studies were saying, okay, it's youngsters who commit cyber crime because they are good in technology. Or some were thinking, okay, people with technology background can more easily commit the crime. So they were trying to profile, but then it was difficult because this is an offense which can be committed by everyone. But then honestly, a lot of people were wrongly assuming that only educated or tech-savvy people can commit this offense, or only youngsters could commit the offense. Maybe incidentally, coincidentally, certain offenses, at least earlier days, were associated with certain group of people. For example, hacking. A lot of youngsters, people in adolescence were the ones who were initially into hacking. But today, it has no age specification. Everyone who knows how to use the technology, and how to get through a system can get into hacking, right? So therefore, it's very, very hard to profile an offender. There was one particular case where a woman was receiving offensive messages when she complained, and it was matter was investigated, matter went to the court. It was found that it was one of the uneducated person, was a construction worker who had sent all these messages through WhatsApp. This is like when WhatsApp and all was very new in India. So the court felt that, how can he commit cybercrime? Because court assumed at that point of time that cybercrime is so technical. How can an uneducated person commit the offense? Right? So that was the perception, and that person was not punished. But today, it's ruled out that this technology can only be used by, educated or tech-savvy people, because this technology has reached almost everyone's hand. Kids can easily handle it. It has nothing to do with educational qualifications. At least forwarding to everyone can do. Right? So therefore, it's very, very hard to profile the offenders when it comes to cybercrime. It's not like a conventional crime that you can profile the offender. It has nothing to do with educational qualification. It has nothing to do with from what background I am. It has nothing to do with my ideology, etc. Secondly, when it comes to cyber crimes, it's also hard to profile the victims, because initially, even now, a lot of people think, okay, as long as I don't use smartphone, I'll not become a victim of cyber crime. This is the assumption, and a lot of senior citizens even now resist from using smartphones. They prefer to use some basic model of the phone. But then that doesn't mean that they're completely secured from misuse of this technology. For example, what if I'm not using smartphone, not using internet, but still somewhere my Aadhaar detail is leaked. Someone has used it, somewhere I'd given it for ID. He has leaked it, somewhere, it is used for creating fake profile online. or without my knowledge, someone is committing some other offense. So victim can be any. Again, victim need not just be the one who is using technology. Victim need not be just the one who is uneducated. We might think, okay, only uneducated people can become victims of certain cyber crimes or frauds. So if you look into the news related to cyber crimes of any country, including in India, even highest authorities of, say, judiciary, police have become victims. Very recently, one of the highest police officer, retired officer, of course, from Bangalore, had become victim of cybercrime. Previously, the Chief Justice of India, the then Chief Justice of India, had become the victim of cybercrime. DGP of the state in Karnataka had become the victim of cybercrime. So a lot of incidences like this helps us to understand that, again, this has nothing to do with educational qualification, your designation, yeah, you can't associate it with any profile when it comes to victims. So anyone can be a victim. Secondly, when I say victim of cybercrime, it again can include people like us, individuals, as well as institutions. Institutions have become victims of cybercrime. So therefore, when you look into cyber law, cybercrime law, cyber civil wrong related law, you're not just looking at the wrongs that are committed against individuals. We're also looking into the wrongs that can be committed against institutions. For example, I give you the example of I writing an article and someone else publishing it. Similarly, institutions have also become victims of IPR theft. My company has manufactured a source code, but someone in my company has stolen and sold it to some other rival company, or some other rival company has used hackers to hack into my confidential data. So institutions are also victims. State is also victim, because today most of it is said that war need not just be fought on warfare, it can be fought on cyberspace, and countries have suffered because of cyber attacks. So I'm here referring to cyber terrorism or cyber warfare. So even terrorists are using this technology to communicate, to recruit people into their organizations, or to commit other offenses like sale of arms, contrabands like drugs, etc. So victim can be a state, victim can be the society. For example, cyber pornography, cyber obscenity, child pornography. Over here, society is also affected because it's all about offenses against public morality, right? So society can be the victim, individuals can be the victim, institutions can also be the victim. So therefore, again, since this space is something that's getting connected to every aspect of our life, so anyone who is using this technology, not using this technology, indirectly using this technology, can be a victim. Now, why is this such an important law? Why we all joined this course, or why every institution today is trying to teach their students about this law? And irrespective of like whether you're from a law background or otherwise, you want to know about it, because this law is becoming relevant for us in one way or the other. I'm a doctor, but I'm handling my patient's personal data, so I need to know how this personal data needs to be legally handled. What are the risks involved if I'm not taking care of data privacy, data security? So every professional is affected with this. Industries, as I just gave you a few examples, individuals, so everyone is affected. So therefore, it's essential that we know about this law, because I'm sure people from law background know, people from non-law background would have heard about this principle. That is, ignorance of law is not an excuse. Similarly, since this is a technology we're all using, it's almost become a handheld device. What if I mistakenly send a wrong message, mistakenly forward a wrong message, and then I say, I didn't know this was a wrong, I didn't know this, there is a law, which says I shouldn't do it. I can't take this defense, because mistake of law is not an excuse. Ignorance of law is not an excuse. So everyone is supposed to know at least those basic laws, which also today include cyber laws. It's a concern for every country, including India. Why? For example, in 2013, and even before that also, once again, there were like a lot of studies conducted, but I'm referring to one which was conducted in 2013. The government of UK, along with an academic institution and an industry, conducted a study only to know the extent of loss which was caused because of financial frauds, online financial crimes, online financial irregularities. And according to them, again, as I just mentioned, anyone could be a victim. So according to this report also, public sector was losing hugely. Private sector was also losing hugely. Private sector in the sense, even private companies, public companies. individuals were also losing. And in fact, they give the statistics of amount of loss. Uh, for example, if you see this slide referring to, say, 21 billion pound loss faced by business entities, similarly government entities, government bodies were also losing, citizens were losing. On the whole, they say extent of loss that UK economy was suffering because of online financial frauds, online financial irregularities was huge. And they themselves say in the report that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Why? Because many people do not report the cases to the authorities. So maybe the loss is more than this, and we don't get to know because not many report the case. Same is also the concern in India. Lot of crimes are committed today, lot of cyber civil wrongs are committed today, but not many get reported. Not many are registered in form of cases, because we know how difficult it is to go and register an FIR in a country like India. More a difficult scenario if it is about cyber crime, right? So I go to a regular police station, they'll ask me to go to cybercrime police station. I go to cybercrime police station, they ask me to go to regular police station. So getting an FIR registered itself is so tough. So here we are referring to statistics based on reported cases. So many times, not many reported cases. See, again, the reason for not reporting case are many. One is reluctance on the part of the authorities to register case, reluctance or lack of awareness or ignorance on the part of the victims. They do not realize that there is a law, there is a remedy, where I should go, I may not know. Many times it's also about ignorance of the fact that I've become a victim. You know, what if I have secretly hacked your device and secretly watching usage of your device? Right? I'm not doing anything that makes you feel suspicious. So you will not even know that a hacker is, sitting on your device, or, he's been watching you. That's the kind of crime we are talking about. So, unless you're tech savvy or I do something, suspicious, you will not realize I've been hacking. So that's the concern. Now, when this report came, the report also was relevant for us, important for us, because the report said that India was the third country in the world in terms of losing economically. So as soon as this report, it said India was the fifth country in the world, in terms of using financially because of online financial fraud. Now, one problem with cyber wrong is you don't want to repeat it if you're from industry. Why? Because you fear loss of business. Maybe you're a bank, you don't want to report because you might lose your customers. So therefore, not many would want to report the case. Though today we have RBI guidelines requiring, in fact, there are notifications mandating banks to report mandatorily if they've come under any cyber attack. Okay, but still there is reluctance to report. But anyways, as soon as this report came, it was also reported later in the media that a lot of investments which were happening in India industries, were withdrawn because of this report. So that's a concern. See, someone maybe has become a victim of some fraud. He hesitates to tell because people might laugh at him. You're so educated, how could you even share your password? Right? That's the kind of a response usually people get. Or today, a lot of teenage children, a lot of youngsters are becoming victims of, say, online extortion. Maybe there are some private messages he would have shared or she would have shared, private images. So there's extortion by which is huge, which is committed at a very large number, and not many want to report because they fear, again, this kind of backlash from the society. Or some of the cases we've seen, family doesn't support the victim. So a lot of other issues, there are many other complicated questions that needs to be addressed. And because of all these, not many do report the case. If country could lose so much because of just one report indicating that it's a victim of cybercrime, imagine the plight of small industries and individuals. So people hesitate to report the matters. Cyberspace law, cyber law depends on offenses that are committed. There's certain offenses which are purely cyber crime in nature. If a purely cyber crime, so you'll apply cyber law, that is IT Act. There's certain offenses which are conventional, so which means you should apply conventional criminal law. For example, stealing your IPR by using technology, apply IPR law. Or if it is hacking, completely cyber related, apply cyber law. Or if it is, say, defamation, I've committed defamation of by publishing a defamatory post on Facebook or Twitter, some other social media. So over here, defamation is not a new form of wrong. It was already known to us. It's just that today the platform where it is committed is different. Technology, the tool with which this offense is committed is different. So over here, you don't need a separate law. So the existing civil law and criminal law is enough. So like that, there's certain offenses which are new, which emerge with this technology. So therefore, you have only this IT Act, which as of now can handle these offenses. There's certain which were known to us from before, and to address those, to regulate those, you have previously enacted laws. For example, hacking. Hacking emerged, with this technology. In fact, initially, people were not much bothered about hacking because often the motive of the offender also, except in few cases, the motive of the offender was also only to show like how technically he's good, to show his technical skills, expertise. So the motive was not to extort money, to make wrongful laws, or no, nothing like that. But then as we moved ahead with the further expansion of the technology, today what we see are dangerous versions of hacking. Today hackers, I'm not saying every hacker, but a lot of hackers hack only to steal your vital data, your personal data, your sensitive data. Or you would have heard about, or most of you would have watched one video that came off recently on most of the WhatsApp groups, which says, you will get a link to Kashmir Files movie, but if you click, immediately, hacker enters your device, your mobile phone, whatever is the one on which you're, downloading that movie. And hacker, there are, the video says that there are cases of people losing money from their bank accounts because over here, hacking is not just to the mobile phone. Through that, they're even able to access your bank account details. So today, hacking has reached, this form, and this form of a crime, which is more dangerous. It can lead to financial loss. Also, we've seen cases like where institutions' websites are hacked, they're defaced. So it's not like before that hacker would only hack, show how vulnerable your system is. Today's hackers can also say change the web page, deface the web page, or ask for extortion, or ask for or like do things that can lead to loss of reputation of the victim or the victim institution. Then we also see increased number of offences related to banking transactions, such as credit card fraud, debit card fraud, ATM frauds, etc. So, which means that again over here, cyber law for this particular purpose would be banking law also, right? So, you'll have to regulate this not just by applying civil law, criminal law, cyber law, but also bank related regulations. So, therefore, when I say cyber law, it might also include to this extent banking law as well. And most of the people are becoming victims of credit card frauds. Again, those slide is only referring to one country. Today, even India is suffering because of these offenses. Indians are also suffering because of these offenses. See, many times our data, that is my bank related data, is stolen from here. My ATM card data is stolen from India, sold to someone in Russia. So they maybe they create a cloned ATM card. They sell it back to again some people in India. So in India, it is again misused. So see, multiple countries getting involved, and many times it's also an organized syndicate, organized group which is committing the offense. So that is another challenge for the investigating officers. So one is they're not in your country. Secondly, they're all groups. So if it is an organized crime, it's more a complex issue for the investigating agency because in organized crimes there are multiple people involved. Maximum is you can only catch small fishes, but the entire network can't be traced. So that's another challenge for the investigating agency. To that respect, banking law becomes again to an extent cyber law. Password sniffing, password stealing are again most commonly committed offensive. We often keep telling people, please change your password at least once in a while. Keep complicated passwords. Don't share your passwords with others. But again, most of the institutions, because of the trust that they'll have on each other, people keep sharing passwords. Over here, I'm also referring not just to personal, accounts password, but official accounts password. For example, some of the banks you might have seen like same computer is handled by multiple people. So after I finish my work, my colleague comes to work on the same computer. I'm sharing password with her or him. So so how secured are these? Who should be held accountable if something happens in between? What if I'm sharing password by writing it on a small sheet? chit? What if it goes into wrong hand? So small, minute things which are, if are ignored, can lead to huge loss. Apart from this, there are also technical tools through which passwords can be easily sniffed, can be easily stolen. And that's also concern. So without my knowledge, maybe somebody has used a keylogger, so he's knowing all the terms I'm typing on my keyboard. So these are some of the concerns that not every common man is aware of. Phishing, very commonly committed cyber crime, or you can even call it as cyber civil wrong, because to an extent civil remedies are available, but otherwise largely it's considered as a criminal offense. Phishing is when, I'm sure a lot of you know about it. For people who have not heard about this term, it's nothing but one of the social engineering method. That is, I will send you an email or an SMS, or I'll call you, I'll call you. So I'll make a phone call, and through this email or phone call or SMS, I'm asking you to share your credentials like bank account details or password or PIN number. And I'm so convincing that you get convinced. You know, I said how a judge became victim, a police officer became victim, because the person who's calling you or the person who's sending you an email, he's so convincing that you tend to believe him. For example, we've heard of incidences that have happened in institution, that one colleague gets email in the name of another colleague. This happened during the beginning of COVID, saying my family members are in medical emergency. Please send money immediately. You know, that was a situation when you tend to believe, you know, because a lot of people were suffering medically at that point of time. So immediately one of the persons sent money, and then again he received another similar email request. He again sent money. Third email request. That's when he realized, how is it that, you know, same person is repeatedly asking. So when he calls that person in whose name email had come, he had not sent any email. By then, this person had already lost 50,000 only for being so helpful to a friend. So this is so convincing. Or maybe it's just after a seminar. For example, let's assume after today's session, we'll receive an email saying, how was today's session? Please fill in your feedback form. So you tend to believe that this might be from organizers or resource person, right? So many times offense happens in this scenario, that the receiver tends to believe in its, you know, authenticity, originality, and all that. So he responds, and that's how the perpetrator of wrong gets access to your credentials and commits an offense. You would have heard about a place called Zamtara, from where it is alleged, it is said, it is reported that a lot of such phone calls are made. Again, so convincing. For example, let's assume my bank has recently merged with another bank. The phone call, the person says, since there is a merger of your account, now we are updating your account details. So share your credentials. I tend to believe and share. So that's the concern. This is referred to as phishing attack or phishing offense. If you receive such requests through voice, calls, in simple term, I'm trying to explain, it's referred as phishing. Embezzlement is where I'm misappropriating, misusing, digital assets, that is properties available on cyberspace. Again, over here, to an extent, property law can become relevant, but criminal law will definitely be applicable. Over here, maybe you handed over your digital asset to be taken care of by A, but someone else or A is misusing it, right? So if it is a tangible property, IPC will apply, but intangible property like metadata, etc., current law, does not extend to that extent. So you have a lacuna in the law, vagueness in the law. Money laundering, where you're converting black money into white money, it is more easily committed because you have online bank accounts. Now there are certain accounts which I found has not been used for years together. So I make use of that account, or I misuse that account to say transfer money. So I'm just doing money laundering. So with Jan Dhan Yojana, this threat has also emerged because a lot of people who are not aware of bank related transactions, who do not know about the importance of bank accounts, were given bank accounts. And what if someone uses it, right? So these are the concerns that police should address. And over here, when we talk about the law, it's again not cyber law. IT Act will not deal with Money Laundering Act. So this has to be regulated by the Money Laundering Act itself. So Prevention of Money Laundering Act itself should address this. So therefore, again, to this extent, cyber law would be Prevention of Money Laundering Act or the other applicable criminal laws. Corporate espionage, as I was just mentioning some time back, one company is spying on the other company. Maybe they want to collect some sensitive information. We've seen this happening even when tenders are called. They are competing companies trying to apply for tender, but I want to know the price quotation of my rival company. I recruit hackers and ask them to check their related files, etc. So that's also getting reported off recently. So companies spying on each other by intruding into the cyber space or technology used by the other company or recruiting hackers can't be ruled out in today's scenario. Virus attack or worms attack, which are usually referred to as malware attack, is also concerned today. I'm sure all of us have become in one way or the other victims of virus attack, right? So sometimes your file just gets corrupt or it gets deleted or you're not able to open it, or it goes even to the extent of ransomware attack, to even able to open your system because everything is encrypted. People not from technology background, encryption is nothing but I'm just locking your entire file through a keyword, through a password. So, and I demand money from you. So I say, unless you pay in Bitcoins, you will not get your password. So a lot of people, a lot of institutions, a lot of public institutions also have become victims of ransomware attack. So much so that in UK, multiple hospitals had become victims of ransomware attack. In fact, at one point of time in UK, they had to shift all the patients who required emergency medical care from government hospital, that is public hospital, to private hospital, because these hospital systems were all affected with ransomware attack. So over here, you just don't see it as virus attack. You see it as an act of terrorism, right? Because essential service is getting affected, medical service is getting affected. So for that, we can even bring in and apply terrorism law. For that, you will also apply other laws related to, say, medical service, etc., and criminal law, of course, and it's not just IT Act. So, therefore, virus attack is a concern today, and many times it just affects data. Sometimes it affects entire system, that is computer. Sometimes it can even go to the extent of affecting life and property of people, as I just gave you the example of ransomware attack on public healthcare system. Similarly, imagine some systems which are used for providing other essential services, like, for example, entire water supply to a city is controlled to a computer, let's assume, and I hack that computer, I manipulate the data. So over here, you don't just see it as a case of hacking. It's also about, say, doing things that will affect life and property. I'm like restricting the supply of electricity or water supply, whatever is that essential service that this computer is, used to provide for. These are usually referred to as critical information infrastructure. So CII, critical information infrastructure, is also concerned today. Its protection is also concerned today. We have separate provisions under the IT Act to deal with this, but still not enough, because concerns are huger than what law is as of now trying to address. Then you have other attacks like DOS attacks, DDoS attacks, that is denial of service attack, or distributed denial of service attack, meaning that I've sent so many requests to a website. It is so many that that website is unable to handle so many requests at a time. And therefore, any genuine person who's trying to access that website is unable to get its service. So an example of DOS attack. So like this, at a time from multiple sources, I'm attacking the system. It's called as distributed denial of service attack. Often cyber terrorists use this as a mechanism to attack government-based websites. Then you have certain simple offense. See over here again, if it's used by terrorists, you're applying terrorism law. Used by an individual, you'll apply IT law. Right? So then you have salami attacks. Again, this is named after the term salami, which is a small layer of a flesh. So similar to the term over there, salami attack means I've just taken a small portion, small amount from your bank account, so small that you don't realize. Or even if you realize, you don't want to file a case against the offender. For example, I've only removed your 10 rupees or 5 rupees. Now you don't want to run around between bank, police station, or all. So you don't report it. But for me, like that, I've done, committed the offense against many people, making huge, money. So for this, of course, you have your cyber law, your criminal law, but hardly implemented because victim doesn't want to pursue the matter. Victim doesn't want to file the case. There's also another problem here. If that victim even goes to the court, we have a ground of defense in criminal law called trivial act. Anything which is very trivial in a sense, very small. Law doesn't want to pursue that matter. For example, I steal an apple from a neighbor's tree. So law says, okay, give her a ground of defense. So like that. So that may also be a concern if you see it from conventional law perspective. But unless it's investigated and shown that this attack is waged against multiple people involving huge money, so law enforcement agency may not take it seriously. Neither would you take it seriously, because for you it's just a loss of 10 rupees. But if you don't even want to spend, on your diesel or petrol, or fuel to travel to police station or back, right? So these kind of offenses are also emerging with this technology, which is a concern, because holistically, if you see, comprehensively, if you see, it's a huge offense in committing, but individually affected victims perspective, you see, it's a very simple offense. You also have another malware attack referred to as logic bomb. So again, when it comes to salami attack, I forgot to mention, cyber law over there would also include your banking law. Coming to logic bomb, it's a malware attack, but this is named as logic bomb because it's similar to time bomb. I have created a malware in such a manner, a virus program in such a manner that it operates upon a particular time or upon a particular event happening. Example, today, let's assume I send you an attachment asking you to say fill a feedback. So today you downloaded this attachment, you've filled the feedback, you send it back to me. Now, maybe through this attachment, I've also sent a malware, but it is not doing anything suspicious today. Because I've programmed it to get activated, say, let's assume on 31st December or on New Year Day or on Independence Day or after 10 days from today. So after 10 days from today, suddenly your computer is crashed. You will not even doubt me, because at the time when this offense actually, is realized by you, um, I've not sent you any email, right? So that's referred to as logic bomb. Again, there are reported cases from abroad under this category, that many officially reported from India, but unofficially, of course, some of them are reported in the media, but not by the police. IPR related concerns are also there, because today, whatever you write and publish on the online platform, anyone can access. So copyright is an issue, plagiarism is an issue, people can easily access, easily download. So this raises multiple questions, like who is liable? Should search engine also be liable, through which you search that article? Should that website which allowed you to publish a copyright infringed material be liable? Should only I be held liable? So all these are the questions. So anyways, copyright is a concern. Again, Kashmir files, though you had legal restrictions, we could see how pirated versions were made available, not just Kashmir files. So any new movie, immediately you get a copy of it, which is not an authenticated copy available. So this is a concern that music industry and entertainment industries are facing, which is usually referred to as software piracy. Again, when we talk about this, it's IT Act, it's IPR law, and in some states, it also comes under States Organized Crimes Act. For example, in Karnataka, the Karnataka Organized Crimes Act also deals with software piracy. If someone is found manufacturing, distributing, selling, pirated movies, music albums, etc., he can be punished under Organized Crimes Act. So, which means over here, cyber law would also mean your Organized Crimes Act, would also mean your IPR law, would also mean your many other laws. Then when it comes to, say, trademarks, the mark through which I do my business, I sell my products or I deliver my services. Again, because of this technology, not just on internet, but otherwise also, when I refer to computer, I read one definition of the term under IT Act. So this also includes your sophisticated scanning devices, printing devices, right? So today it's so easy to manipulate these labels, with which products are sold. It's so easy to create a web page exactly like yours. Many of us would have got phishing emails in the name of a bank, and when you click on the link, it takes you to a bank page, supposed to be a bank page exactly like your bank, an authenticated page, the same color combination, same logo. Sometimes it will also have the signature of RBI governor. So it's so much a replica. Like in fact, it's so difficult to even identify that this is a replica. Why? Because this technology is coming as an aid to these offenders in duplicating web pages, products, etc. Similarly, a lot of products sold on online platform are also pirated products. For example, they're replica of reputed brands, reputed branded watches, bags, etc. So another concern for IPR, but since is also possible because of cyber technology. So, to that extent, both the law merges with each other. Then we have domain name disputes. Domain names are nothing but your IP address, the name with which you're known on web page. For example, a university might have, say, let's assume university name is ABC, you know, uh, .ac, .in, abc.com, right? So these are the domain names. So sometimes maybe you've been using this domain name since last 10 years, but I go and get it registered in my name. Now you can no more use it, right? So now I demand money from you if you want that particular page back to you. So this is usually referred to cyber squatting or domain name disputes. So over here, again, trademark law will apply. We do have international remedies, etc. But then, to that extent, trademark law becomes a part of cyber. So therefore, there are many forms of IPR related offences committed by use of cyber technology. And for various forms of IPR, since you have various branches of IPR law, so whichever is relevant, so that law will apply, like copyright law, trademark law, sometimes patent law, right? So any of this can be relevant. As I was mentioning earlier, today almost every device that you started using at home, including home appliances, are integrated with internet technology. And not just home appliances, most of the other devices, even medical devices like scanning machines or even your pacemakers, etc., are all connected with software programs, connected with internet, technology. So that's also a concern. And over here, uh, the law needs to be so wider that it is able to take care of the concerns that have emerged with these kind of integrated, tools. So IoT, therefore, is advantageous, but at the same time a concern, because IoTs, that is Internet of Things, things that are connected with the internet, say smart television, smartphone, etc., are all coming under the term cyber space, or more legally speaking, computer network. For example, if my mobile phone is connected with this laptop, so it's an IoT device, and it's getting integrated with my refrigerator, my water heater, right? So all these are IoTs. And imagine at the industrial level, there's so many devices which are connected with each other. And imagine at much more higher level, satellites are connected. So all these, come under the definition of computer network, therefore would also come under information technology law. So therefore, the more the devices that are getting connected, wider the law is becoming. A couple of cases which have raised concerns about IoT home-based appliances. For example, a lot of cases are already filed in abroad, reporting that refrigerators were attacked, they were hacked. Now you might feel, why are even hackers bothered about my refrigerator? See, many times hacker may not be interested in your refrigerator, but might be interested in your, personal space, privacy. For example, what if a person hacks a smart television, and through that, he can hear your conversation, he can see your movements around that television. So it's about data breach. Second reason might be that he's not bothered about you or your device. He's hacking your device, he's controlling your device, and through that, by using that device, he's hacking another device. So maybe his target is some other, computer, but he's not directly hacking. He's taking remote control of your computer, which can even be an IoT device, and through that, he's hacking another computer. So this can mislead the investigation, can complicate the investigation, but he can, however he wants, use these devices between as tools for commission of the offense. We've also heard about cases of, again, a lot of cases where refrigerators have been hacked, and after hacking it, it's been used to send phishing emails or spams, etc. So, it can again mislead the investigating agencies. Today, most of us also have become victims of email bombing, that is receiving unwanted messages, unwanted emails. Sometimes it's so huge in number that it can result in crashing, or your inbox is full, so you have to sit and delete. So imagine those days when our smartphone did not have much, when our phone did not have space, much, uh, storage space. So unless you would delete your messages, you would not receive new messages, right? So those kind of annoyance can be caused. Sometimes emails or messages sent are so many, especially emails, that they can even lead to crashing of the system. So over here again, cyber law will become relevant. Data diddling, nothing but changing, manipulating the data when it is in raw form. So when I'm inserting data, that time itself I'm changing the data with some wrong motive so that the outcome is also different. For example, I prepared an IoT, say refrigerator, not an IoT based, but which functions based on a software program. But I've deliberately programmed the software in such a manner that it stops working after 2 years. Right? So you don't know the reason why your washing machine is not working. It's just 2 year old, but maybe because I've deliberately planned it in such a manner that it stops functioning after 2 years. So I'm forcing you to go and buy another refrigerator. So these kind of incidences are also coming to light. So why? Because over here, at the time of inserting data itself, I've manipulated it. So therefore, it's called as data diddling. That is data manipulation. Salami attack, I've already explained. Internet time theft is also a concern. For example, if you have Wi-Fi connection in your house, you're not using much of its connectivity, its service, but you're getting huge bill, maybe because someone in the neighborhood is using your internet time. So this is actually, again, a concern for us because we refer to it as internet time theft. For this, unfortunately, IPC will not apply, conventional criminal law will not apply because for us, theft only means stealing a tangible property, like a and a movable property. So if I steal your mobile phone, I can be booked under theft section of IPC. But if I steal your data from the mobile phone, I can't be booked under IPC because IPC only recognizes corporeal, tangible, and movable property. And you can imagine internet time definitely is not about some tangible property, though you can very well, enjoy the advantage of this technology. So, however, to deal with this, we do have certain sections in the IT Act which needs an elaborate interpretation in order to address this concern. Again, not many are aware of it. Not many police officers are also aware of the fact that we have a law through which internet time theft can be regulated. So lack of awareness about this law is also a concern. Logic bomb also I've already discussed. Trojan attack refers to program which seems to be an authorized program, but actually they're not authorized. Example, maybe an unlicensed say software program, but it is so much a replica of the authorized program that you don't doubt it and you use it. Okay, and that may have malwares in it, that may have virus attached in it. So that's another concern. DOS attack, I've explained. DDoS attack, I've explained. Online frauds are many. I mentioned about financial fraud, uh, but frauds committed on online space or with the use of cyber technology are so vast, so wide in number, different in form. I can include even frauds committed by misusing matrimonial websites or online shopping websites, banking websites, etc. So frauds committed in the course of banking transaction, financial transaction, etc. can all come under this purview. Including, this also includes lottery frauds. Again, all of us would have definitely received SMS or email saying you won lottery, pay processing fees. And law cannot instill character in a person or remove greed in a person. This is what is commonly said. So there are many who have responded to such messages because of greed or whatever, and or lack of knowledge or negligence, whatever, and they become victims of lottery frauds. And many times it's not just about say what comes in the name of lottery. You would have got it in one way or the other in some disguise. And sometimes it has also happened in such a manner that I'm traveling abroad, I book a hotel from here, but when I go, that hotel doesn't exist, or my booking itself is not done by that hotel. Someone else has actually committed fraud on me. So those kind of cases are also often reported. Spams are nothing but unsolicited emails. And you don't want those emails, but they're coming to you. Like, for example, commercial advertisements. You just do one online booking of some service or product, and it follows with continuous messages of that product or that service or that related company. So though TRAI regulation says, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, through its regulation says that it can opt out from receiving those messages, it's hardly functional. I keep opting out, but I still get those messages from other numbers, right? So that's the concern. So as of today, this is not a crime. As of today, this is not a civil wrong also. As on today, it's only TRAI regulation which applies, so which means cyber law in this regard will include your TRAI regulations, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India's regulations. Cyber terrorism, I referred to in various contexts while giving certain examples. Cyber mafia, again, misuse of this technology by, again, criminal gangs, mafias, organized groups. We've also seen that contrabands are sold on the online platform. In fact, to regulate this, a lot of other countries have come with separate laws only to regulate internet sale of contrabands. In India, we don't have any such separate law. You will have to handle it under, say, for example, Arms Act or narcotic drugs. If it's sold, then you have to handle it under NDPS Act, that is Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. So again, those conventional laws become cyber law, in this context for this particular purpose. Cyber warfare, I already mentioned how today countries can wage war by using this technology. And many times, even with regard to Russia and Israel, there are reports saying how satellites were used initially, not completely full-fledgedly to commit war, but a lot of war activities were planned using this cyber technology. So therefore, to that extent, war loss also becomes cyber loss. We're also hearing a lot of scams like job scams, online job scams. So I apply for a job, I'm called for an interview, but when I go, it's a fake interview. I'm subjected to. I've been asked to pay processing fees. So the actual company is not knowing about what's happening, and I'm actually becoming a victim of fraud. So those kind of offenses are also often getting reported. In fact, there was one incident in Bangalore when the interview was conducted in the ground floor, and in the same building on 15th floor, the actual company was there, and that company did not even know that in its name fake interviews were conducted. Except for the interview, all other transactions and communications had happened on Cyberspace. Right. So those kind of issues are also becoming more and more because of this technology. Illegal sale of contrabands, I've already explained. So all these are the example of certain wrongs which emerged with technology, some which were there but have become more concerned today because it's been integrated with this technology. All these are referred to generally as cyber crimes or cyber wrongs. In fact, it is also say expressed, opined by academicians that with this new technology, new ways of committing crimes are also emerging, and that's the concern. And to secure cyberspace, you will have to regulate cyber wrongs. You will have to regulate cyber crime. But the problem is, as I said, it's such a vast domain. When I say cyberspace, a very huge space it is what I'm referring to. When I talk about cyber wrongs, cyber crimes, it's again many offenses I'm talking about. So multiple offenses, multiple issues, multiple concerns. So one law cannot address this. And the new versions of the technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, drones, deep web or dark web, that's not very new, but then more commonly nowadays used, or even machine learning. All these are also raising more and more concerns related to cyber security, information security, privacy, etc. So all of this needs to be addressed through a law. You refer to it as computer laws, cyber law, privacy law, whatever, but all of those are, if in fact, it with reference to this technology. So therefore, defining terms helps us in defining the scope of the law. And that attempt had begun in India with Information Technology Act. But just before that, few more basic issues. Cyber crime today is very popularly known as cyber crime, but earlier days writings, if you read, it's also referred to as computer crime, high-tech crime, e-crime, etc. But nowadays, anyways, it's more commonly referred to as cyber crime. So therefore, today's context, all of this refers to one and the same. It's very hard to define cybercrime because I've just given you the list of cybercrimes, and that it's not like a complete list. As I said, I would have skipped many forms of cybercrimes um, because it's very hard to list everything in the given time. Also, as I said, more and more new forms of cybercrime keeps happening, so it's very hard to list them. So similarly, it's very hard to define the term cybercrime. The attempts done. Why am I referring to the definition? Because with this, you'll also understand what law might become relevant. According to Bowen and Halley, use of computer technology to commit crime is referred to as cybercrime. So any crime where I use computer or computer technology, that is internet technology, also becomes cybercrime. So therefore, if I'm committing murder, but if I'm using cyber technology to commit murder, that also can be referred to as cybercrime. Or see, it doesn't say completely by using technology. Partially, if I'm using this technology, for example, I have a next GPS tracking device on the victim's car. So I'm following the victim. I go and kill him. So partially conventional, partially cyber, right? Similarly, there's another definition which is more often referred to, given by Nagpal, I mean also referred to by many other authors and academicians and writers. So it says these are the offenses where either computer technology is the tool or the target or both. Meaning, that is, I want to commit an offense against you and I'm using my computer as a tool to commit that offense. For example, I want to take some money from your bank account. So my target is, say, your bank account, the money in your bank account. So I use my computer, log into your bank account, transfer the money. So the computer I've used is the tool to commit the offense. It's not like earlier days that I had to go to the bank, show the revolver to the bank manager, rob the bank manager, or commit dacoity, whatever. So today with the system, it can be done. So therefore, systems here, computer systems here are the tools of commission of the offense. Or systems or the contents on the systems can be the target of your crime. For example, I want to delete your file. Maybe you're working on a very important assignment, but for some reason, I don't want you to complete that assignment. So I hack your computer on which you're working and I delete that file. So my target was your computer or that file on your computer. Or the third category of the offenses, I go on cyberspace, commit offense and come back. For example, I go on Facebook or Twitter, put a defamatory post, come back. So I'm committing the offense on cyberspace. So cybercrime refers to all of these three, where either the tool is the computer or the target is the computer or the place I'm committing the offense is cyberspace. Computer, when I say, of course, it also includes internet technology. Or it can be, two of these, where the tool is also computer, target is also computer. So it can overlap, of course. That is one of the best definition you can think of. And accordingly, think of the laws which will apply for all the offenses committed where technology is either a tool or the target or is the place of commission of the offense. Cyber crimes, like any other crime, can be committed against persons, institutions, states. This I've already mentioned earlier. Just one clarification, especially for people who are not from law background. Whereas under law, person means natural person like I and you, as well as legal person like your company, your bank, your institution, the university. So they're also persons. I'm emphasizing on this because there was one case. It was a civil case which was filed against a bank because a lot of people who were the customers of that bank received phishing email in the name of that bank. So when case was filed against the bank, the court, that is that civil court, said that bank is not a person, so therefore bank is not liable. No, legally person means legal person, that is artificial person, that is companies, corporates, etc., as well as natural person. Property for us generally means both intangible, tangible, corporeal, incorporeal, but you look at the law, whichever is the relevant law, and see what definition that law provides for that particular property or to what kind of property that particular law applies. So otherwise our laws are wider. So accordingly our offences are also classified. There are certain, as I said, conventional crimes which are also committed with the use of computer technology. So that's also, is something that needs to be regulated through law. Example, online frauds, IPC will apply. Online banking frauds, banking regulations will apply. Forgery, that is, forge your digital signature or electronic signature. So again, IT Act will apply, IPC will apply. Counterfeitation of documents. I'm duplicating documents, duplicating currency notes. Why? Because scanning devices are so advanced today. Printers are so advanced today, so easy to commit counterfeitation of documents. Mischief means destruction of property. I don't have to come to your house and destroy your property. I can just destroy your digital assets. Right. So these are some of the conventional crimes, but are emerging newly with new forms. Defamation today has become cyber defamation. Harassment has become online harassment. I want to harass someone, I can just send one simple SMS or email. Intimidation, I want to scare someone, so easy, just do it with an SMS or an email, offense is done. So a lot of conventional crimes are also becoming common today. Why are people using this space or this technology to commit offense so much? Why I'm saying so is because of the increased number of cases are getting reported. Though I said earlier that what gets reported is very less, but despite that concern, every year you see there is an increase in the number of cybercrimes getting reported. That's because preparation to commit the offense is easier. Whatever tool I want to commit an offense, I can book it online. I don't have to meet people who are like-minded in physical space, plan to commit an offense with them. I can just meet them on cyberspace. I can locate people of my mentality on social media. Looking at your post, I can easily profile you in terms of what's your ideology, which political party you prefer. You like or not is different, but you prefer. So committing offenses or parts of offenses are easier today. To conspire, it's easier. I don't have to meet the other person with whom I'm planning to commit the offense. One or few people can commit the offense. So I usually give the example of Mumbai terror attack in 2008 when Kasab and others attacked Mumbai. It was not hundreds of people who came and attacked, right? But it was just few of them. Why? Because technology has replaced people. They were using satellite phones, they were using SIM cards. Compared to the earlier, say, attack, like for example, Rajiv Gandhi assassination, a lot of people were involved in committing the offense. But Mumbai terror attack, very few were actually in the crime scene. So because technology is replacing people, technology is giving privacy. A lot of people are watching porn content, including child porn content. Why? Because they think that this technology gives them anonymity. So I think no one is watching me, so I tend to commit offense. So because of these intrinsic features that this technology has got, so it's a concern. Offenders have already explained. Coming to the landscape of cyber law very quickly in another 5 minutes. I end my talk and pick up questions. When it comes to cyber law, as I said, very hard to say what cyber law is because cyberspace itself is so vast. Components of it is also multiple in number. But we tried coming up with the law in the year 2000. Try to understand the reason why we came with this law. Indian Information Technology Act was enacted in 2000, but the reason was the UN wanted every country, at least its member states, to come with a law through which online commercial transactions could be facilitated. Sale of goods between India and another country, online sale, etc. So had to be encouraged, facilitated. So therefore, the UN prepared a model law called Ancestral Model Law on E-commerce and asked the member states through a resolution. It passed a resolution and asked member states to come with a law similar to this model law. So after this law was brought in, and this law makes a lot of changes to the existing law framework of the country. For example, Indian Evidence Act. So a lot of provisions of the Evidence Act were changed. IPC provisions were added. RBI Act also underwent changes, etc. So on the whole, a lot of laws in the country underwent changes, and apart from that, IT Act also um, was enacted. However, as I said, the object of the IT Act was to recognize e-commerce, e-governance, as I said earlier. So it was more to encourage and facilitate e-commerce and e-governance. And the law talks about provisions related to e-governance, related to e-commerce. There are provisions under the IT Act through which civil wrongs are controlled, regulated, crimes are also regulated. So under that, you have provisions through which hacking, cracking, data stealing, data diddling, malware attacks, internet time theft, ATM related fraud or similar frauds can all be regulated. Privacy is also protected through some of its provisions. So like this, it's a very vast law. And I'm sure forthcoming sessions will take you to some of the important portions of these laws. So with this, I'll end my talk, but I'll be happy to take questions and we can further interact. Yeah, any questions?
Ma'am, can you
There is
explain
something in
about
the
the
chat box.
punishment, ma'am?
Yeah, just a minute. I'm just not able to stop the screen. Whoever is the co-host, can you just stop the screen? Yeah. So the first question is about the punishments. Yeah, that's a good question. Since it's about getting into the IT Act. So the whole of IT Act, see, as I said, punishment for what offense? So what offense it is, accordingly, which law will apply, will needs to be determined. Now, let's assume it's a offense which comes under IT Act. So for hacking, data stealing, most of the offenses I've mentioned, malware attack, etc. Maximum punishment as on today given under IT Act is 3 years imprisonment. I'm talking about criminal offences. 3 years imprisonment or fine or both. So up to 3 years imprisonment can be prescribed by the provisions of IT Act. So it starts with section 65 of the IT Act, goes on till section 85 of the IT Act. So these are the provisions. Yeah. And then you also have see certain offences like say offences against women, like stalking, continuously following a woman, or sexual harassment on a woman, or voyeurism, that is taking photos of private areas, of a person's body. If the offender is a man, victim is a woman. So we have provisions from IPC, usually referred to as post Nirbhaya, amendment provisions, amended provisions. So under those again, imprisonment and all can vary. So it all depends on under what section offense can be made up. But pure cyber crimes like hacking, etc., as I said, usually it's 3 years, unless they are the offenses against state like terrorism. So then offense becomes more serious. So then punishment is 10 years imprisonment or can even extend up to life imprisonment. That's like, very exceptional situation where even terrorism and all is associated. Others for normal cybercrime, it's imprisonment up to 3 years. I hope in brief I've addressed your question.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
There any exception for women in the cybercrime, ma'am?
Hear that? Any?
Any exceptions are giving for women or kids or any special provisions for them?
Right. Okay. So that's a good question. So one is for protection of women, specifically, as I just said, post Nirbhaya incident, we amended our criminal laws, including Indian Penal Code. So these amended provisions in the IPC, it starts from 354A. Okay. So 354 capital A, B, C, D. So there are women, specific provisions. So that can be made use of. As I said earlier, stalking. For example, I'm sending repeated annoying message to a woman, like a man is sending it to a woman. He can be booked under 354D. That is for cyber stalking. Stalking is where he's sending repeated messages or he's watching her internet activity. For example, I'm like hacking your system and seeing the usage of your system. So so like that, you have cyber stalking, voyeurism. I just explained what voyeurism is, sexual harassment of women. So all these comes under IPC. In addition to this, if it's about indecent picture of a woman used for advertisements, we anyways have a conventional law called Indecent Representation of Women Act. Today, it can also be extended to say digital advertisements. So therefore, these are some of the provisions to which women is protected under IT Act specifically. There's no specific section to protect women against cyber crimes. So it's done through IT Act. Sorry, it's done through IPC. The next question was about protection of women. That's a very good question. I missed, mentioning that aspect. So, child pornography, where children are involved in creating child porn material, or in the child porn material, children-related contents are used, or it can even be a graphic image, but it is indicating that the subject matter in the picture or the video, whatever text or whatever is child. So child pornography is a concern again, which almost every country is trying to address, not just India. And almost every country takes it seriously. Why? Because UNCRC, United Nations Child Rights Convention, requires member states to protect children against sexual offenses. And today, sexual offenses on children also includes online sexual offenses like child pornography, online child grooming, etc. So for this, we have two laws. So one, section 67B of the IT Act deals with child pornography. And in addition to this, we also have POCSO. It's a separate law called POCSO, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. This act was passed in 2012, and this act has provisions through which watching child porn material, downloading child porn material, transferring, transmitting, searching, distributing. So every act related to child porn material, is criminalized under this POCSO. So that's the two law through which children from online crimes are protected. Otherwise, today the concern is also about, say, bullying, We've also heard of children committing suicide because he was a victim of child bullying, etc. Unfortunately, for that, we don't have separate or specific law. Right.
Madam,
So next question is, I just read it from the chat box that do we have a law to protect consumers' data privacy? A good question. So as on today, under the IT Act, any industry, any company or industry which is handling our personal data or our sensitive personal data. Now the question is, what is personal data? Personal data is that data or that information with which a natural person, human beings are identifiable. Example, my name. But my name can be similar to somebody else's name also. So therefore, it's not just personal data, right? Or it includes my name plus my email ID or name, caste, annual income, email ID, medical record. So in combination, either with that data, you can identify me, or that data along with some other data as in combination. If you're able to identify a natural person, it's called as personal data. Some part of personal data are referred as sensitive personal data because they're so sensitive that if you don't take care of its confidentiality, it can be misused. For example, bank account details, passwords, PIN numbers, they're sensitive. If you don't take care of its protection, security, etc., they can be used for frauds, right? So we have section 43 capital A, which says that under IT Act, which says that any company handling personal data or sensitive personal data should take care of that data. Now, see, every company which is selling products or which is providing you services are companies, right? Unless they're government-based company, they're corporate entities. So, as a consumer, if I'm buying something from Amazon, Amazon is a company. As a person, I'm availing some service from, say, Infosys. Infosys is a company. So, any company which is handling my data, that is my personal data and sensitive data, should take care of that data. And how should it take care? There are rules laid down under 43. If it does not follow that rule, and then there is a data breach, someone has hacked or whatever, there is a breach of my privacy, I can book a case against that company under 43, but it's a civil case. That is, I can only get compensation. So 43A is one section which can be used even by consumers. Okay, that's one option. Second option is under consumer law. See, nowadays, I think getting remedy under consumer law is not possible. However, under consumer law, you have a section which says that the goods seller or service provider should take care of privacy. So, but exactly the sanction is not as clear as it is in IT Act. So I would still say 43A is the most appropriate section, though the recently amended consumer law makes a mention of privacy protection. And under the Consumer Protection Act, you also now have e-commerce guidelines that also very slightly mentions about privacy. But remedy as on today is available under 43 capital A. That is civil remedy. Similarly, you will also get criminal liability which can be imposed under section 72A of the IT Act. 72A says whoever in the course of some contract, etc., comes across your data and comes across your information, etc., and breaches the confidentiality or privacy of it, can be subjected to imprisonment up to 3 years. So this is what 72A says, but these are the sections that are hardly utilized, unfortunately.
Ma'am, you have a couple of questions also here. Do you have a time to answer it, ma'am? Ma'am, I'm listening here. You have a couple
Yes,
of
yes.
questions in the chat box. Do you want to take it or?
Yeah, I can take it, ma'am, no problem.
There's one question that is, in case of cyber crime, how will you identify the criminal? Whether it is possible. It's a question by Sanjeev Kumar.
Yeah. Okay, so again, another very apt question. As I said, see, this technology is such that it gives anonymity to users if they want to be anonymous. This technology gives privacy to people, so that's also there. At the same time, we should also realize one fact that when I'm using this technology, I'm also leaving digital footprints. Okay, it's not so easy to wipe out unless I'm extremely technically good and all that. So what IP address I've used or what devices I was using, one way or the other, this can also be investigated. So today investigating officers in fact do have lot of tools that are helpful for them to trace the offenders. IP addresses can be traced. So I think it's like a cat and a rat race. So they're also moving ahead. Technology is also fastly changing. So trying to match up to the requirement. So coming to your question, I can't say it's completely impossible. It can be traced, but because of a lot of issues in the law, or because of a lot of issues in the implementation of the law, I may not get conviction. In a lot of cases in cybercrime, what we see is that maybe they've traced the offender, they've cracked the case, but maybe they've not followed legal procedure of collecting evidence. So their evidence is not accepted in the court, but you know who the offender is. So that kind of a concern is also seen. So therefore, I don't have a ratio or a statistic to show how many cases we could identify the offender. So some we could identify, but maybe because he's not in India, we could not procure him. Or maybe I am investigating in Bangalore, offender is in Kerala. See, procedurally, that is also complicated within India also. And the case is not so serious that, I would want to proceed ahead with that complicated, procedure. So many times jurisdiction is the issue. That's the reason why I write in the report saying he's not traced. Or many times he's in abroad, and you're all seeing how much time we are taking just to get, Malia or Nirav Modi extradited to our country. It's a time prolonging process, complicated, etc. So because of those problems, maybe we say we've not traced the offender, or we don't file a complete charge sheet or charge sheet naming an accused, or you don't get convictions. Those concerns are there. But yeah, tracing is a challenge, but investigating agencies are trying to overcome with it. A lot of cases we have successfully handled, but long way to go. So I don't have a clear answer to this, but I hope you understood the concern.
Ma'am, there is another question. A lot of questions are coming up. I think just one more you can there's a question by Ammu. Uh, Data theft is considered as an offense. Then the government accessing person's data without their permission or consent will be considered as an offense. That is her question. It's relating to.
Thank you, ma'am. As I just said, you will apply 43A under IT Act if the wrongdoer is a company, is a corporate entity. Right? You will apply 72 if the wrongdoer is a person, an individual, who in the course of some contractual obligation breach your privacy. So what did I say? 43 applies for companies, 72A applies for individuals. Apart from this, we have 72 hardly utilized sections, which says any person authorized under IT Act or the rules under the IT Act or the regulations under the IT Act, he comes across your personal data and breaches it. He comes across your information, breaches it. He can be booked under 72, but we've hardly used this section. But the section uses the word person authorized under the Act. Person authorized under the Act can also include investigating agencies, like police officers, who, while conducting investigation under the Act, have collected my mobile phone, let's say. Then they should only collect evidence from my mobile phone, which is relevant for their case. Apart from collecting the evidence, or instead of collecting the evidence, what if they leak my mobile data to a TV channel, which we often see, right? So maybe in a WhatsApp conversation, I've spoken to someone, it's a controversial material. So they sell it off to some media house. That is an offense under 72. And 72 applies to government employees also for authorized under ITI. Right? So therefore, under ITI, these are the provisions. 43A for company, civil case. 72A for company or an individual, civil criminal case. 72 for government offices authorized under the ITI. Apart from this, if government is breaching my privacy, maybe they're using surveillance tools, CCTV cameras, whatever, then Article 21 will come into picture. Over here, it is about fundamental right to privacy which is getting affected. Article 21 of the Indian Constitution guarantees us right to life and liberty and privacy. In Puttaswamy versus Union of India, the Supreme Court of India has very clearly said that right to life includes right to privacy, and it further includes informational privacy, data privacy, etc. However, the same case, the court says, you see, all these rights are not completely absolute, right? So they say, if there is a law which has a legitimate objective, to achieve that legitimate objective, if it is essential for the state to intervene into my privacy, state can intervene because that law is there. That law allows the state to intervene, and that law has a legitimate objective. and the extent of my privacy breach is proportionate to that legitimate objective. For example, they only collect that data which is relevant. So don't collect what is not relevant. And that legitimate objective can be, for example, prevention of terrorist activities, ensuring security in this state, etc. So that is one space where state has a right to get access to our data and all. Beyond this, if the state does, it becomes an issue. You would have probably noticed in Pegasus case, Supreme Court itself has ordered for an inquiry because Supreme Court wants to know whether government was within that law framework. So beyond this, if the government does, I can file a case against the government asking for constitutional remedies, either under Article 32 or 226. So that's the remedy as on today. But once the PDP bill comes, you would know a lot of you probably are hearing about PDP bill, that is Personal Data Protection Bill. Once that bill comes, government agencies will automatically come under the purview of PDP bill. So then they will come under many other legal provisions, including those under which criminal liabilities can be imposed. But we have to wait for the PDP bill to come.
Machine learning, a system to learn from data, will it come under privacy protection law?
Ma'am, not able to hear you.
Ma'am, machine learning, a system to learn from data, will it come under
Right.
privacy protection laws? That's a question raised by Royce Chaco Matthew.
Which law come under which protection law, ma'am? I couldn't hear.
Machine learning.
Yeah.
Will it come
Under
under
which law?
privacy protection laws?
Okay, right. So as on today, so we don't know. We have to wait for PDP bill, right? So until that comes, the only law you can think of is, say, whatever I just mentioned. See, whether you use artificial intelligence integrated device or even a machine learning, whatever. If it's a company which is manufacturing such devices, company is answerable. But of course, I'm understanding the context in which the question is put. See, machine learning, it's on its own that it is, performing its functions, right? So these are some of the gray areas law is yet to address. But as per the existing legal principles, I can say if I know that whatever I'm designing that device, including machine learning, feature integrated with the device, can go to this extent of, say, breaching privacy, etc. If you can show that I knew and I deliberately programmed this device in such a manner, I'll be answerable. And as on today, these are the only provisions: 43, 43, 72, 72A. If it is a government which is using Article 21, the whole problem with machine learning is, this would be the defense for the other side, other party, that it was machine which on its own learned. But what if I could foresee? I can give you a very, example just by drawing an analogy between your question and the movie. So the robot movie. So you could see how the robot could, I'm talking about the Tamil movie, where it itself replicates, does destructive activities. So if the person who designed it could foresee this danger, so he can be questioned. But if you're not able to foresee, etc., then maybe you will be absolved from liability. So again, as I said, all these are gray areas. At least artificial intelligence related, as long as ML, machine learning, is still not a part of it. To that extent, the one who is manufacturing can be liable, one who is using can be liable, one who is selling can also be liable. A company manufactures, B company sells it, C owns that driverless car, then there is an accident. Question of the car owner, question of the distributor of the car or the seller, question of the manufacturer's liability. All these will be separately addressed under law. Extent to which I knew, extent to which I was taking risk, will all help in determining extent of my liability. Under civil law, for example, under criminal law, we refer to as mens rea. If you can know that this was the danger, if you knew that this was the risk, and you did not bother to, take care of the risk, you will be answerable under criminal law. So, just taking it as an irrational. As long as you could foresee, you're responsible. Things that are not in anyone's control, law also will fail to, impose liability. So let's wait and see how law also emerges in regard to this particular domain. But as on today, if it's integrated in a computer, etc., the only law you can apply is Information Technology Act in India's context.
So, thank you so much, Professor Dr. Nagarathna ma'am, for being with us for the past two and a half hours. From 6:30, you was talking to us. You have inaugurated our short-term online training program. You have set the right tone for this short-term online program. Thank you for inaugurating the program and for the inaugural address and making us understand the very basic of cyber law and information technology. So we are taking back a lot of information that you have shared with us. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. On behalf of Department of Lifelong Learning and Extension, Mahatma Gandhi University, and on behalf of all the participants, I thank you for this inaugural address. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And all the best for the scholars of this course and the organizers. Thank you so much. Thank you.